everybody, to the next edition of Spotlight On. In this edition, we are going to be putting the spotlight on AI and generative AI. Big buzzwords happening with everybody at the moment. Joining me today, I have Troy Gerber, our Centre of Excellence Lead for Azure AI and Copilot. Welcome, Troy.
Hi, Judy. Great to be with you today.
Really appreciate you making the time for this, and I know that this is a topic that is close to your heart and about which you are most passionate. Well, let's get right into this idea of AI and generative AI, because I feel like the world is using them interchangeably or not realizing actually that they are two different things. So could you talk to us a little bit about AI and generative AI and the difference between the two?
Absolutely. AI effectively is the catch-all or the umbrella phrase for artificial intelligence. So anything that you can have a machine or a program do that typically would require human intervention or human thought process. So that's it's umbrella term. There are different types of AI or different subsets, and generative AI is one of those subsets, and it's the AI that is more kind of focused around generating unique and new content, where some of the AI that we're typically used to is more around, here's a picture, please identify something in it. And it's very sort of algorithmic based, or this is a couple of pictures of dogs. Next time I show you a picture, if there's a dog in it, say yes. Where generative AI, you could say, I would like to see a picture of 5 dogs walking through the forest with their handlers behind them, and it would generate that picture. And it does that because it's able to understand natural language context, and also understand what something would look like if it created it. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that does it makes perfect sense. So AI is more about analyzing and observing and then reporting on what it sees. And generative AI is about being able to give instructions and for it to create something that wasn't previously there. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the generative AI is really about generating new ideas and new concepts of information that it knows about. The analogy I like to use, if I may, is if you had to take a child and put them into a library and allow them to read everything in the library, and then you taught them what different things meant, what it means to be happy, what it means to be sad, what it means to be in a group, and you then gave them a piece of paper and some crayons and said, off you go, draw me a scene of your parents and your best friends at a picnic, and it's a beautiful sunny day and you're on a beach somewhere. They would go and take everything they've learned and from those books and then generate a piece of content. That's generative AI in a nutshell. It's about knowing and having the information and able to generate new content based off that in a sense is unique in its own perspective.
It's a lot of pressure on the library to have some really good books in it.
That is exactly a phenomenal point, Trudy.
Well, on that basis, let me break it down into AI and GAI and put a bit of a business lens around it. If I were to ask you what the top 3 benefits to an organization of embracing AI, so the analytical reporting, data-based embracing of AI, what would those benefits be in your opinion?
I think the traditional sort of algorithmic AI is really around efficiency because it is very pedantic and specific. You aren't asking it to come up with a creative answer. You are saying, when this happens, do this, or when I give you this piece of information that I've taught you to understand, and I show it to you, identify this and give me the answer back within the parameters I set. If you take those type of efficiencies, they make a huge difference. A good example of that type of AI is processing things like invoices or anything that you have coming into your organization that is document-based. And these have been around for probably a good 10 years now in different forms. So I can train that AI to look at an invoice. So I will tell it that the invoice number is going to be top left corner every time. And just next to invoice number, there's most likely a word that's going to say invoice or INV or some derivative. And the next time I send you an invoice, go and find that INV in the top left corner and go and get that number for me, and also grade yourself and tell me how accurate you were. So that is a type of efficiency that we can use for repeatable tasks. So every invoice that comes into my business, I can go and throw it at the AI and say, there you go. And that's where efficiency is coming. It's also good at looking at data. So data analysis in the sort of traditional AI space is something that it's really good at because it's repeatable content again. And it has the ability to do something that humans could do, but would take a lot longer, and that's look at vast amounts of data and tie them together. As a human, I could read all the data, and I would probably make notes along the side, trying to tie the data in and establish relationships. With the AI, you can do that across vast amounts of data really quickly, and with those relationships predefined, get an answer quickly. So it's really good for things like taking an application for, say, a banking loan or for a process of approval that has specific steps and the data is repeatable. So those are sort of on the traditional AI, those are the use cases that we see the most. It's about efficiency, data analytics, and those have a spin-off that they typically lead to better customer experience because we're getting things in and out a lot faster.
So to summarize, if we're talking about the top 3 benefits to an organization around AI, what I'm hearing is 1 is the automation of time-consuming manual processes, the ability to scale and do at scale jobs and tasks that would have taken people a long time to do and may have actually needed a lower quality output because there's a limit to how much content people can get through in a day, how many documents they can read, how many data sources they can process to create the output one is asking for. And AI can do that faster and wider. And then the final benefit is that because you can do these things faster with better quality and wider access to data, the customer experience that people get from an organization is vastly improved. Is that a fair summation of what you said?
That's a fantastic summation, Drew.
Awesome. Well, then that leads us to the benefits that organizations can experience if they embrace generative AI. Where does that leave them?
Generative AI is, because by nature it is a content creation AI, and it's a unique content creation AI that it tries to create unique content every time. The first base is actually content generation. And that's a bit of a broad term. So what does it mean to generate content? Is it music? Is it a picture? What is it exactly? And the reality is it's anything. So any space where I want to say generate the first draft of a proposal to a customer, or generate the first draft of an email, generate the first draft of a blog post, generate an image based off an idea I have. That's where generative AI from a content creation comes in. And it's basically taking away that blank canvas or that first piece where you have to sort of think about what my first draft is going to be. And it gives you that first draft first time is not going to be 100%. You still need to add your subject matter expert hat on and go through it to make sure that you are fine-tuning and giving correct context. But it's that space of generation that comes back with something that you can use immediately to take you from having to go spend 5 minutes, 5 hours a day on something and actually have something to start with straight away. The other space is innovation. And one of the things that we as humans have is a lot of intellectual property in our heads, and some that we forget about sometimes because it's not always applicable and it's not there. We have the access to the internet and we can go to research, but now you certainly have this generative AI that has access to effectively the internet in a certain form. They want to ask it a question or say, give me an idea about doing this, or how is this approached? It's going to use that source, and because it is generating a new content, it basically generates new ideas quite often. So it's a great way to actually get a bit of innovation. And there's a bit of a trick around that we found with using it for the last couple of months is sometimes it's asking it, what have I missed when you're doing something? So maybe say, I've written a beautiful blog post. What am I missing in the context of this idea? And getting a different insight. So it becomes not only an assistant, but almost a bit of a brainstorming partner to a certain degree as well. And I guess that's one of the places we're leading to. And then this is, I would say cost saving, but I'm going to say more efficiencies. Because generative AIs are seen as assistants, what does the assistant typically do? The assistant helps remove some of the mundane and repetitive tasks that you have on a daily basis, and that you focus on what you're supposed to be doing, or your core output. If you think of an assistant to a general manager or director of the company, the general manager could book their own flights, or could schedule their own meetings, or could generate responses to basic emails. But the assistant takes over some of that workload that is not core to what the person wants to do. And this with generative AI, because it has that sort of assistant mode, it's there to help you, comes in and makes you more efficient, or gives you time to actually focus on what you have to do, versus some of the things on the periphery that might not be necessary. So there's a bit of a tying to the AI itself. When we look at AI making you more efficient, generative AI does the same thing as well, but slightly more leaning towards the assistant role versus a ABC type of do this next role.
Okay, so just to summarize, so you can tell me if I heard things correctly, the three things that we can benefit from generative AI is, first, the overcoming of the blank page syndrome, where it's hard to get started. Generative AI, just through asking a couple of simple questions, can start populating a page with whatever it wants, whether it's a sales proposal, an RFP, an email, a poem, a blog, anything to get you started. The second thing is it can drive innovation, where you have a question or a possibility or a thought or an idea. You can pop it into your generative AI and it can flesh that out for you, asking questions of you to help you take that innovation forward, but also giving you the opportunity to say, what have I missed? Because it's all well and good to have a brilliant idea, but if you're not aware of your blind spot, you might discover that somebody had that bright idea 6 months before you. So Gen AI can actually help you identify some blind spots when it comes to your innovation. And then finally, much like AI, there's just an efficiency to be gained using generative AI to fill in the gaps where assistant style support in the forms of generation of content can help you do your job better, at the very least to help you concentrate on the core parts of your role better. Is that fair?
Absolutely, 100% agree. Great summation.
Excellent. Well, to be fair, all of this sounds very exciting, and I'm sure that most of the people who have stayed put this long have already had a bit of a go, whether it's with Copilot or Chat GPT or any one of another generative AI or AI based technologies that are freely available out there. But if we're talking about truly embedding this in your business and a business case for doing it, and doing this, I guess, strategically, what would your advice be to business leaders if they want to embrace AI and generative AI for their business, as opposed to just dabbling in it? How do they take this forward as a serious strategic business case?
Fantastic question. I would say first thing, education. So make sure you understand what AI is, what generative AI does, before you start making decisions. And I would say, but one of the things to do is stop reading horror blogs and listening to news reports and things that are on social media. Actually do the research and understand what the AI can do, because the benefits definitely outweigh some of the risks, which tend to be the big story is what it can't do, what it does wrong. So understand it, because once you understand what the technology can do and you've invested in understanding, having that in place, you'll be able to make better decisions on how you're going to use it. The second thing is, once you have that understanding, have a look at how it applies to internal efficiencies inside your organization as a business leader, and how it can impact your output if AI makes sense in the context of the services you provide your customers. And I do split the two, because you don't, just because it's there doesn't mean it's something that you're going to have to use or must use, otherwise you're missing the boat somewhere. You'll only miss the boat if you don't understand it. So having a look and say, well, if I have a scenario where I'm generating certain content, or I'm doing something that the AI can do on my behalf, that's a great place to look at investing. If there's something that can provide a better outcome for my customer, or my customer service, or the product I deliver, invest in that space. But you won't know that until you've actually understood what the AI can do for you. And then the next is to start small and scale up. Generative AI has been around commercially since for about 18, 19 months now. It's been around from a technology point of view for a couple of years, but as far as most people are concerned, ChatGPT started, and that's when generative AI started. So it's really new, and it's changed a lot since we started with ChatGPT, the first version, to where now I think we're 3 versions down. So find something that you can do that's small, where you can benefit from this new AI, so you can learn how it works, so you can get a sense of what impact it's going to have, and then start scaling up. Don't go in with a big picture saying, I'm going to use AI to solve all the problems I have. I'm just going to throw everything at AI and hope it sticks. The recommendation from majority of the analysts that have been actually working on this, likes of Microsoft, Amazon, Google, are all start small, get some high value, learn from that. There's a learning curve for your staff to understand how they use generative AI. Typically, AI is something we didn't actually touch as people sitting on the shop floor, because it was something that was a background activity. We had to speak to a clever IT person to do AI. Now we can do it ourselves, but we need to learn how to do it ourselves, because it's not just a text box. It's something we need to be able to ask learn how to communicate with the AI and get the best response from it in many cases. So to recap, education and training, make sure you know what it's about. Define some goals and metrics of what you want to achieve, either operationally in your organization or externally with customer-facing solutions you build or services you provide. And then start with something and then scale up. Don't stick your head in the sand and wait for something to come along or for somebody to do it first. You can actually start small right now and get some high value out of it and move forward.
Fantastic. I actually think the start small but start is probably pretty great advice for anybody, because AI is not going anywhere. Generative AI is not going anywhere. It will become a normal part of our world. So being a laggard in this space is probably going to have a high negative impact on the business. So starting small, but starting is great advice.
If I could add to that, you're 100% right, Trudy. It's difficult nowadays to actually find a solution or product that is in the marketplace that is not using some form of AI. And it can be started very simple as if I go, I do a lot of whiteboarding exercises, and I use a product called Miro or Microsoft Whiteboard. They've got AI embedded. Some of the popular tools for creation, Photoshop, AI embedded. There are free AI services available like ChatGPT or Copilot for Microsoft that are just there. So it's literally become part of every single online tooling that we're seeing. And I would say a majority, if not all, the companies that provide services are looking at how they can embed it. And if we look at the industry as a whole, recent announcements by the likes of Microsoft starting Microsoft AI as a business, the investment is there. The players that make a difference to the way tech moves forward are all in, and this is not something that they're trying out to see will it work well. It's going to be there. So there's not an option of saying I'm not going to do this. You're either going to be part of the consumer base or you're going to be providing the service, and that's the decision that you need to sort of start with now.
Yeah, agreed. I just want to go back to something you said earlier, this idea of sending a child into the library to read and consume all of the content, but then the generative component of that is taking what you've learned and making something new. And we said depends on what's in the library. I think that's probably something that might be a thing that makes some businesses feel hesitant to get started because they're not sure, what does that mean for us? What is our library? Is the data good? Is there a good filing system? Is our Dewey Decimal System up to scratch? Have we got a good selection of non-fiction and fiction books in our library, so on and so forth? Is the content we're going to get from our library going to be the content we want because our library is up to scratch? What would your advice be to businesses when thinking about getting started, even starting small, about that library? How do you make sure that the content you get is going to come from a library that's well set up to deliver your goals?
Amazing question, and probably one of the questions we get the most when we have conversations with our customers. First of all, just to backtrack a bit, large language models, they are referred to as LLMs. That's what ChatGPT is. These are models that have been trained across masses of data. And when we say it's been trained on the internet, it's effectively is. It's publicly accessible data. The models have been trained to understand. So that's their sole purpose. As a tool, if you think of it as a tool in your toolkit, this tool is able to read, understand, and create and generate. Now, if I take that understanding and using the library analogy, in your organization, the library is your data. So it might be something that's sitting in your line of business system. It might be in your SharePoint or somewhere where you store your documentation. In any place in the organization where you store data, that is your library. What the AI is going to do, especially in generative AI, large language models, is you can tell it that this is the only data you're allowed to use. So when I ask you a question, take what your learnings from being trained to understand things, apply it to my data only. So when you are looking at the data I have, apply your learnings, but only use my data as a source of where you get your answers from. Don't make it up. Don't go onto the internet. Don't take stuff you learned from while you were trained by somebody else. Only use my data. And then you're going to get a lovely, and they call it a grounded answer back that's grounded in your data. To make sure that answer is relevant, your data needs to be good. If you've got a couple of documents that have been there for 10 or 15 years, are no longer relevant, but are still accessible, that haven't been archived, or you've got duplicate policies, or your data that you're doing analytics on is old and irrelevant, maybe an office doesn't exist, you don't have a product, the AI doesn't have context of that. It's going to look at the data you provide and say, I've been asked to generate an answer. I have this. I'm going to generate the best answer I can based on what you've given me. So one of the first things that an organization who's looking at using AI large scale should do is look at the data environment. Make sure you have good practices in place to archive your data. Make sure that you're doing things like tagging your data and adding metadata, adding context, identify data that you regard as sensitive that you might not want the AI to have access to, and put those policies in place, and identify especially privacy data so that when the AI is working, it is respecting any privacy policies you have in place. Then you can end up having a lovely curated data set of relevant data for the AI to work with, and all the guardrails that protect your data, like privacy, your internal security processes, data loss prevention, all those things will kick in, and your end user who's using the AI against the data is going to get a great answer that's grounded in your own content, and also is going to be relevant to them based on their security profiles and any legislative requirements you have around that.
Do we expect businesses to be able to take care of this themselves and have their house in order before they reach out for AI-based projects and support and ideas? Or is this something that we can provide support with and give guidance and maybe manpower to make it happen?
Does a company need to go, well, I need to get all my data right before I start? Absolutely not. It's a good program to start running. There are lovely analysis scenarios that can be done, but you can also segregate the way the AI works. You don't have to enable an AI technology, and I'll use a specific example, if you don't mind, of the Microsoft Copilot suite. I can enable Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is the Copilot suite for the Office applications, and I can say you do not have access to SharePoint. But that's fine. When you do your thing, run through email and Teams only, because that's quite recent applications and typically is quite locked down. But leave SharePoint out for a while, because I might want to go and spend some time getting my SharePoint data ready, and I'll switch it on later. So there is not, you don't have to switch on everything and just hope nothing goes wrong. You can start small and scale up. There's no need to do well, I need to finish this first. And there's also different workloads in the organization as well. You might have a specific requirement in your business application space. So let's assume you use Microsoft Dynamics for sales. You can say, right, I just want to enable it across that data, because that data is data that is really regularly curated, regularly kept up to date. I want to enable the Copilot experience or the AI experience for that only, and I'll do the others later while I'm making 100% sure my data is ready for it. So to answer your question, you don't have to do all the analytics up front. You can actually start small and scale up. You can segregate how you want to use the AI depending on the scenario. And the tooling and support and the IP on how to do that is readily available, and it's something that we can assist with immediately.
Fantastic. I'm seeing a real theme in this: start small, scale up.
Yep. So we've actually been doing that ourselves at Fusion 5 really. We've been drinking our own Kool-Aid for close to about 11, 12 months now. We started getting our environment up and running. We started testing the different tooling. We created a center of excellence, which I'm lucky enough to lead. We've trained our staff on how to use AI, some of the free tools first, so they got used to asking questions. We've looked at our own data and said, how can we improve, and ran the tooling and workshops against our own environments. And we also started off with our journey into enabling our staff with AI by having a small pilot group of 5, and then we went to 20, and I think we're close to about 50 users now that are effectively using, especially specifically Microsoft Copilot on a daily basis. And what we've found is, by starting small and learning, and then passing that learning on, but intentionally having learning sessions and enabling people to share their stories, the adoption has been amazing. The return on investment when it comes to efficiency is there, and it's tangible. And it's also because we started small. We didn't try to solve the world's problems with one fell swoop. We went small steps, but very intentional steps, with measures in place to make sure we were getting the benefit that we were paying for.
I love it. So basically, we put ourselves through a fair amount of the pain first, so that we can save our customers from it, because we've learnt the lessons.
Yeah, we're a customer outcomes-based company, so we start with ourselves, and then we take those learnings out. It's sort of what we do.
Perfect. Well, that leads me on to the final thing I want to ask you then. Are there any myths that you'd like to bust when it comes to AI and generative AI?
Yes. Maybe not myths, but just misconceptions. So there's the obvious one of AI will replace all jobs. It's not going to replace all jobs. There are just some jobs that just are irreplaceable. Will it help people to be better at what they do, or be more efficient at what they do? Absolutely. That is the intent. It's an assistant. It's an assistant tool that enables you. So I think going forward, if you're thinking about AI going to replace my job, is find out, well, how can I use AI to make my job easier? How can I actually be more effective? Because companies love effective people, and effective people using AI are the people that are going to survive. I think the other myth is it's infallible, and we see this with a lot of media. Love the media. Also, people, a lot of social network posts. Oh, look, I did this in ChatGPT and I got it wrong, and then like laughing emojis because you managed to trick the AI. You didn't trick the AI. It's not infallible. It's a machine-based system that is learning. It responds based off the data that it has available. It gives you the best answer that it can come up with based on the information it has and where you ask the question. So it's not infallible. And one of the reasons why a lot of the vendors, and I'll use Microsoft example, call their AI assistants Copilot, is they're there to help you, not to do the work for you. So it is infallible, but that said, it's getting to a point where its accuracy and what it's generating is becoming really, really, really good. So once again, it's going to take that 80% workload off in certain cases and give us time to focus hardcore on the 20. I think the other thing is it's not human. I have a habit of saying thank you and hello and how are you today when I'm using some of the AI tools, realizing that it doesn't matter. It understands what an emotional is, and it mimics human behavior, but it's not a human. So it's not going to try and be your best friend. But say thank you just in case they do take over one day, and there's a record of it that they can remember you. Be nice. I
Good
think the
advice.
other
Always
thing
be
is,
polite.
always be polite. The other one is AI, especially generative AI, is not just for tech companies. I think there's this, because of the legacy way we thought of AI, that AI was, and I'd say, a backroom activity, or so as soon as you said AI, went, oh, machine learning, or I don't know how to do machine learning. That's not something I know how to do. Generative AI is basically in your face. It's as simple as going to, like using Google. Nobody thinks about how Google works in the background. You just go and say, Google, where are best chicken noodles? And you get an answer. ChatGPT is exactly the same. Go up to ChatGPT, ask a question, get an answer. So this is something that it can be embedded in all companies. Any company that can benefit from it can use it, and it's easy to do. A lot of the largest vendors are embedding it into their products, making it available. That goes across the board, and it's all through natural language. They're not saying, if you want to use this AI, please go and learn this program language. They're saying, just type a few words and tell us what you want to do, and then we'll figure it out and give you first option, and then you can say, yep, that's great. And next thing, suddenly you have some AI embedded in your capability. Yeah, those I think are the primary myths that I would like to bust.
I heard somebody say recently that the attitude to take towards a generative AI assistant is that the role of an intern, essentially. They'll eagerly and enthusiastically jump on the task and come back with a first pass at it, but you'd never ask an intern to write your board paper and never check it. So this idea that it's about to replace us is, you're absolutely right. It's going to turn us from first pass creators into expert curators, so that ultimately the output that we're delivering is of higher quality and done more quickly. And let's face it, isn't that what the world's always pushing us to be, is better and faster?
That is, I think you should trademark that, truly, curate over content. Yeah, it is 100%. If I could share a personal anecdote, we've been using the Copilot product since it became generally available. We had a small team who started, and it's now expanded to, I think they've just close to being 50 people over time. And one of the things that we've learned is how to use the AI more effectively. And I think, like any tool you get in an organization, or even outside of a business scenario, even if it's getting a new mobile phone with new capabilities, as you start using it, it becomes a muscle memory. And you start understanding the capabilities. And one of the capabilities that I love at the moment, it's almost my go-to inside the Copilot world, is meetings. We're in a lot of meetings. And sometimes meetings happen that you want to be at that I can't be at because I have another meeting or there's an activity. And being able to go to a meeting I missed, or even a meeting I've joined halfway through because I have an overlap, and pop up my Copilot, my little AI assistant, and say, please recap the meeting or where I was. And it gives me a summary, and I immediately can start engaging with that meeting and the content and the basis of it, even though I wasn't there for half an hour. That's gold. To be able to go to a meeting afterwards that I couldn't attend and get an AI recap, and it tells me where I was mentioned, so that I can go to those parts that are the most important to me, or jump to an area where it's identified a specific keyword. Once again, absolutely gold standard. I don't want to not be able to use that ever again. And that's now become part of my muscle memory when it comes to AI. The same thing with generating quick responses to email. My first prompt is generate quick response, and then I go and curate. Once again, muscle memory of using the AI effectively. So that's going to be part of the learning curve. And once that's there, it's just another great tool that just happens to make your life easier and make you better at what you do.
I'm going to make a prediction here that the likes of Copilot and these AI models, especially as it relates to meetings, is going to change our behaviour in meetings. When we're in an online one, for instance, and we know that a person wasn't able to attend, rather than carrying on like they're not there, there'll be an acknowledgement of their lack of presence, but intention to engage later. So you will find that people, instead of just boxing on, there'll be a moment where they say, I know this is being recorded, because I'm going to say, Troy, note to you, this is what I'm going to need you to do, and here's the parameters that I need you to do it by, because they know that you're going to come back in 2 days later, ask for the summary, and just want to see what it is that's being asked of you. So that's my prediction for the future. It's going to start changing how we behave in our meetings, because we know we're talking to the AI as an assistant to improve your ability to act out what we've said in the meeting.
100% spot on, and not only 100% spot on, but actually it mirrors something that Sam Altman recently said in a podcast he was part of. Sam Altman is I think is the CEO of OpenAI, the guys that created ChatGPT. And he was asked in the podcast that what does he think of GPT 4.5, which is what Copilot runs off, which is the latest model, and he went, it's okay. And the interview was quite astounded by the comment, because obviously he's the boss. That's his baby. He should be saying wonderful things. And he said, when we started this project, the 3.5, we loved the first version and it was great and it's changed everything. But we're always looking forward as to what we can do next with generative AI. And his prediction, not his prediction, the roadmap going forward is that it'll do what it does now. So like the conversation we're having, it'll be recorded and I can go and replay, get a refresh. But also the next phase is going to be actionable. So when, as your wonderful example, hey Troy, you should please remember to do this. I need it by Friday. Right now, I'll go back and review that and go and add the activity. In the future, it'll actually go and create that task for me.
Okay.
So we're going to go from something that is listening, but also that we're enable, and this won't be something that it just does. We'll enable and say allow it to, that it will then become part of my activities as well, and we'll start taking that next step and generating that next thing I need to do based off the fact that I've said, if there's a meeting and there's any tasks associated, I acknowledge that you're allowed to go and create tasks in Microsoft To Do or my to-do list. So you're a bit of a fortune teller there, Judy.
I wish. Sounds like Copilot might be the fortune teller, but we shall see. On that note, I want to thank you so much, Troy. I feel like we could do this 10 times over and have more stories, but I really appreciate your time today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Troy and I. Troy, of course, our Centre of Excellence lead for Azure AI and Copilot. As always, I am Trudy Ellaby, the GM for Brand and Marketing at Fusion 5, and this has been our spotlight on AI and generative AI. Should you have any questions, please get in touch. We're more than happy to explore this new world with you. Until next time, take care. Bye.